Yay, I think this is working.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh.
How's it going? I feel like I'm hanging out with my best friends. Deep
Yay,
breath.
Chris. Hi, Chris.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
You?
I feel like, so I have to say that I was here waiting for you for like 6 minutes and then no one was here. And then I was like, oh no, it's happening all over again. I literally felt like I was having a panic attack and I was like, okay, I'm just going to hang up. I'm going to go find their email and then I'm going to click from there. And this is how we got here. So I feel like I want to start off by apologizing. All of you have been very gracious to this process. There wasn't a ton of people that signed up for this class this time. So it was a smallish group and it seems like everyone that had signed up wanted to get in last time. And of course you couldn't. And I normally don't even look at my emails, to be completely honest, because I'm like trying to be like in a focused mindset. So I just try to turn off all my notifications. And so when nobody showed up, I was like, it happens sometimes. People are busy. It's early in January. And then of course, when I got off the call, I was like, oh no, nobody could get in. And then, of course, then I also was like, oh no, and I forgot to click the record button. So needless to say that I gave myself like an hour of beating myself up. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write what happened. And I feel like there's some people, of course, they're going to be upset. And that's okay because, we have our own things to deal with and our own expectations. And I get that some people felt like there was one person that felt like I took advantage of the process and I was like, I will give you your money back. And that's totally cool. And then the rest of you were very gracious. So thank you so much for your kindness. I really appreciated that. And enough apologizing. So here we are. I really appreciate you coming back. Like I said in my email, if you try to get in and you feel like you didn't make it to the calls and you still have questions, I want to make it up for you in the best way I can. And I feel like that's by giving you my time. If you feel like there's some other way that you need to, feel like you're appreciated and loved for your time, just let me know. And I'm here for you. Like, to be completely honest, these things are never a way to make money. Just like, it's always, like all of my trainings always work out to be like a way to give back to the people that already love and purchase my services, or like, Marie Claude is my friend. She's been my friend for a long time. I don't even know why she wants to learn from me because I feel like
I need to.
So I feel like all of you are just people that, already support my Organizing Maniacs community. So I'm here for you in any way I can. So, and hi, Jennifer. So there's going to be 5 of us. Just so you know, I'm recording this class and I am going to send it to the people that purchase this class, which is like a couple of dozen people. So they're going to see you. They're going to see your questions. I feel like the people in our community are pretty supportive. I'm making a few changes this year. And if you have any feedback at some point, I would love to hear it. I teach this class maybe like once a year, and I have done so for maybe the last 5-6 years. And I feel like I've been trying to figure out the best way to transfer this information to people. And I don't know that I've quite narrowed it down. But I do have a portal and it's the School of Productivity. And I wrote an email about like the whole complication of, the technology. Clearly, I'm not very good at it. So, somebody helped me create this website and that's where all of this stuff lives. And so I upload the videos there. Over the years, I think there has been a couple of hundred people that have purchased that class. So all of that stuff is housed there and these videos are going to end up there and somebody can watch it if they have purchased the class over the years. I do always send an email out that says like, hey, refresh if you're interested in like, you haven't done anything with it and you want to do something with it now, here it is. So go over there. I have lots of stuff in there. Some of the feedback from my clients is like, it's too much stuff. So I might be taking some stuff down and reorganizing it. So if you find that you're like logging in and you can't find something or it's messy in there, just let me know, I am a fairly organized person, and sometimes I am the worst at like creating organization when it comes to digital. So I feel like I know all of you, but not really your names. So you may have worked with somebody on the team, or you may have purchased some other thing in the past. I'm Chris, and I started organizing Maniacs in 2007. And this year I'm launching a brand new brand. It's going to be Grow versus Clutter, which is something I came up with out of my van the other day. I was trying to pull out a bin and it was stuck, and I couldn't, like, half of my van is organizing stuff and half of my van is donation. I was trying to get a bin for a client. I couldn't. I literally put my feet up and I'm like wrestling with the bin. And then I got it out and I was like, as I was like trying, I was like, Grow versus Clutter and I can win. And then I pull out the bin and I was like, oh, that's kind of catchy. So I'm going to convert a lot of these online things that I do into that community and see what comes out of that. I have always wanted to build an online community and offer my services outside of my hands-on. Haven't quite figured it out, but I feel adventurous all the time. And maybe I'll be one of those people that have to come up with like 50 other things before I finally come up with the thing that works. So special treat for you people that show up and support in advance coming up for you. Is there anything you want to say before we get started? Because I'm going to talk fast and I'm going to talk a lot. No.
I'm sorry. You go ahead, Mary
Go
Alice.
ahead, Suzanne.
I said we're ready.
Oh, thank you.
You're ready.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thanks. Just to clarify, so this is the first of the series, and then the second one will be next Tuesday at 11, or
the next one. Pull up the calendar. I think the next one is next Monday. It's a holiday.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Next Monday is the 16th. So we're going to meet next Monday at 11:30.
Oh, okay.
And then we're going to meet on Thursday at 11:30. So we're meeting twice next week.
Okay.
And one day we're going to finish the class. And then the second day we're going to talk about all of the non-paper stuff in your office. So like cords and manuals, and we're going to spend some time talking about medical too, because sometimes that's a thing that people have that doesn't fall into the categories, and people get like, that doesn't work for me. So
And I'm my worst enemy in my own office.
we all are.
Ah,
We all are. So the layout of the call is basically, I have done this in 4 calls and I feel like I lose people. So I decided to do 2 calls, which then becomes too much information. So I am going to give you basic structure, and I encourage you to come back next time so you can ask questions. And I also encourage you to like action some of the stuff, because without touching your own paperwork, you're not going to have any questions. And then you'll be left like still wondering like, oh, what do I do? So I don't want you to be left wondering what to do, right? I want you to like take some action so you can make progress, and then you can ask more questions. And like with little progress comes like momentum. So I'm hoping that this will help you create some momentum there. Okay, so I always like to start, I have a note, so I hope it's okay. I'm going to read it because I don't want to forget anything important. Change is really hard for everyone, whether we ask for it and we embrace it, or whether we just, it's forced upon us because we can't find anything in our office. Change is really hard. And some of the things that I'm going to suggest are going to be completely out of left field. You're going to be like, oh my God, this is like too much. I don't know that I can do this. But I'm always thinking about the easiest way for you to manage anything. And I organize for a living. I've been doing this for 15 years. I feel like I understand the human psyche when it comes to like putting things away and then retrieving them. And they're very counterintuitive. Like we think we have all read all of the fancy books about organizing, and a lot of my colleagues have written really good books, but I also read them and I'm like, I hope it's okay. Sometimes I swear, and when I swear, it's like because I really mean it. I go like, what the fuck? Like, what are you trying to do here? And then I finish reading the book and I'm like, what's the action? Like, how do I start? Like, what do I go about doing this thing? And even like, I love Marie Kondo and I love some of her principles. And, she says that, cleaning is man against nature, and organizing is man against himself. And I totally agree with that, because I think that like, even in her principles where she's like, collect all of your stuff into one pile and then start from there. It just like, have you ever seen my pile of shoes? Like, no, like, one time my team were like, when she first wrote the book, they were like, oh, how about Chris, we Marie Kondo you, and we'll just put all your books in one pile and then you can just organize them. And just the idea of it like made my entire body feel like I was having a hot flash, right? I was like, no. So I think that my goal is always not to give you a hot flash feeling, right? That you feel completely overwhelmed by it. My goal is always to make this digestible in a way that you can implement it on your own, and that ultimately you can go and you find your thing when you actually need it. And in order to do that, you don't need a ton of labels, you don't need a ton of bins, you don't need a ton of details. You just need enough of everything that will help you put it away, and then it'll help you retrieve it when you're done. So with that being said, a lot of the principles that I teach around paper have to do with commingling. And commingling is just really the putting all of the stuff together into the same place. And then when you actually need it, then you can just go. You are going to have to go to these folders. They're going to have a lot more information in it. They're going to have a lot more pieces of paper, but you'll be able to find what you need because it's in one location instead of scattered around every corner of your house, which is normally how I meet people, right? They have paperwork in every space, in every closet, in every bag they can find. Like I find paperwork in places that I'm like, I didn't know you could store paperwork over there. Even in the bathroom, I have found paperwork stored in people's under cabinet in the bathroom. And I'm like, what is and she was like, sometimes I come in here and I think I'm gonna read. I'm like, no, not so much. So that is the goal, is to not have it so it's like everywhere, so it's easily found. So the filing system that I advocate is very simple, right? It's a 3-part filing system, and I'm going to jump right in. Is 1 part temporary. So about 80% of what we receive into our homes is essentially FYI paper, right? It's like Suzanne has a car and she makes a monthly payment, and of course, Suzanne's company, let's call Ford. I have a Ford myself. Ford sends Suzanne a piece of paper that says like, hey, Suzanne, you owe me $600 a month. And then Suzanne says, yay, I enjoy my car. I pay the $600. Thank you so much. Here's your money. And every month we go to the exact same exercise for like the 5 years that we pay for that car. But those pieces of papers are essentially useless to you, right? The moment you acknowledge that you owe the money and that you pay for it, you can pretty much get rid of it. But what happens is we all say like, oh no, I need this piece of paper a little bit longer because just in case something happens with Ford and they don't know what happened, I have the piece of paper to like find that information. And there are valid reasons why we should keep that piece of paper, right? 1, it has our account information. 2, it has customer service phone number. It has all of, something happens to the car, you have all kinds of payout information in there. So there is short-term value to keeping that, but there is no longer-term value to it. And what happens is people will create a folder to put those statements in, and then it will live in their cabinets forever, right? A few years ago worked with an older couple, and they had every receipt and invoice and piece of paper that came into their home back to the 1960s. I was like, holy cannoli. It was an entire basement filled with filing cabinets with like, it was interesting to see the evolution of paper, but it was like, how is this valuable to you? Right. And it wasn't. And she was like, well, we didn't know what to do with it. So we just kept it. And then she was like, you never know, maybe one day it will come handy. And then she was like, and then it became too much. And then she was like, and then it was just down there. So we didn't really need it. So one thing turned into another, that it just became this evolution of a lot of papers. So I want you to never have an entire basement full of anything that is useless to you. So this first part, you basically will have, I brought show and tell, and I feel like I need a camera from above. I'm going to evolve into that. But this is my temporary filing system. It is a very fancy box. This is a leather, and I bought it online. People ask me this all the time. Where do I get one? You probably can't anymore because it's been a long time, but you should find a box that suits you. And the first thing you're going to do is create hanging files. I like hanging files. I don't like manila folders. No offense to manila folders. They work for a lot of people. They just don't work for me. I never use them, never buy them, haven't. So you're going to create a filing system, and it will look something like this. So this is, January, can't see, January, February, March, and it will have 12 tabs. So it'll go from January through December. Every folder will be filled with lots of stuff, because this is where the commingling begin, right? Every month when Suzanne gets her car bill and she pays for it, and she essentially lets it sit around in her desk, now it's not going to sit on her desk anymore. It's going to go in here. So I have identified about like 30 pieces of paper that I would file in there. And they are things like, I have a list. They are things like all of your utilities. And if you have a business, it's a little different, right? Because if you're writing some of these things off as a tax deduction, then they are not useless to you. Then they have a purpose and they need to go with your business. And we're not going to spend a ton of time talking about that in here. But if it goes as a business expense or a deduction of any kind, it needs to go separately, and that's going to go with your taxes. And we'll talk about that. But all of your utilities, your bank statements, if you're still receiving them, I am a person, I advocate for still receiving paperwork. It's really confusing, right? Because I feel like it's important to get the thing in order, if like something went wrong and I didn't pay for that happened to me not that long ago. I moved and Verizon didn't receive their payments like they were supposed to. And then they sent you a funny colored envelope, right? Oh, and then I was like, oh my God, they haven't gotten paid. So then I went and rectified the problem. And then of course, in rectifying the problem, they forced me to go paperless. And then of course, they still didn't get the payment thing figured out. And then of course, like 2 months later, one day we didn't have internet. And of course it was like another chaotic day, because I was like, oh my God, I have a class and I have to get on a Zoom call and we have no internet. So that became a big deal. So I went back and I was like, I'm not sure why, but I want my statements, because then I can see that something went haywire and I get my bill. But the monthly filing system will help you manage that. So utilities, bank statement, consumable receipts. I'm addicted to them. Whenever I go to the store, I still ask for them. I feel like when you want to return something, it's kind of handy and it's still available. And then you can easily do that. Like I said, car statements, medical receipts. Every time you go to the doctors, they send you some sort of a thing. When you get a prescription, they send you an enormous thing. Marie-Claude probably doesn't get some of this because she's in Canada, but we get a lot of paperwork for everything in the US. So our house maintenance calls, the plumber comes, he leaves paperwork. The HVAC guy comes, he leaves paperwork. The lawn spraying guy comes and he leaves paperwork. So all of those things are just like, you owe them money. They are justifying what they charged you. It's like, what is the long-term value of that? The cable bill, pay stubs would be something that I would put in there, with exception of like the December statement normally has a whole wrap up of like all of the, of your year-long earning incomes, tax deductions, vacations, whatever else you have from your employer. I would keep that one and put it with your taxes, but like your monthly or bi-monthly ones that you receive, I would stick it in here. Your mortgage statements, I would put it in there, with the exception of also in the US, once a year, they send you a escrow summary, which tells you how they spent your escrow money, which is how they pay your taxes and your insurance. I would keep that one. I would stick it with my taxes as well, because it just tells you like what the disbursement looked like. Some of odd things are like I said, the prescription paperwork. I lived in a homeowners association neighborhood, and they sent you all kinds of paperwork about budget, about election, about rules, about what's happening in the neighborhood. And I always be like, I can't throw this away. So I would stick those pieces of papers in there. Bank letters and FYI, if you have any institution relationship lately, like the interest rate in the US is going up every month, they send a lot of letters notifying you what's happening in the banking industry. So there's a lot of rate and conditions changes for credit cards. Some people want to keep that stuff. If you want to keep it, I would stick it in there. Car rental paperwork, car registration, insurance, statements, if you have that, hotel receipts, online orders. My current dog sitter doesn't waste her time, because I was like, let's not kill the environment. But my previous dog sitter would write me like little reports on a piece of paper about what the dog had done when she came over, like the dog pooped and peed and she rolled around. And like, why do I need this? But I couldn't throw it away. So I put those in there. Anything that you receive into your home that you feel like, I don't want to keep this forever, but I want to keep it just in case. If you're saying just in case in your brain, in quotations mark, that would go into your temporary filing system. And I feel like literally that is probably 90% of the paperwork that I see cluttering people's desks and homes and areas. That's the stuff that's shoved in bathrooms. That's the stuff people are not opening. I have worked with people where they're like, I don't want to open my mail. I was like, that's fine. Don't open your mail. Just throw it in there, because then at least if you need it, you know where to go find it. And if you decide to open it, then it's there somewhere organized. And if you decide you're never going to read it, then in a year from now, you can just get rid of it. So the system is meant to so we are currently in January, and I literally just cleaned my files. So in January, I would go inside and pick all of the things that I stored on it from last year. I would take one last look at it and see, did in fact got in there by accident, or did I order something that was fun that I really loved, and now I want to order it again because it's been a year, right? So then you can look through the statements and see what's in there. Nothing got in there by mistake, nothing important that, I got crazy and careless and threw it in my filing system. And then I take the whole pile and I put it in my shredder. And then I start filing again. So every month you're essentially going to be sticking some stuff in and pulling some stuff out. So you'll never have an entire basement worth of filings for statements for the rest of your life. Sometimes people ask me like, oh no, I can't just have 1 year's worth of paper. I need 2 years worth of paper. Fine. Then go way in the back and then pick at this point you would be picking 2021 maybe, or 2020, 2021. You would be taking 2021. You would be throwing that away. You already have 2022, and then you go into 2023, and then you have a couple of years worth of it. There's zero reason why you should keep 2 years worth of these statements in your filing system. I feel like there's rarely ever a time when I was just like, oh, I need something, I'll go in my file and get it. This is literally where paperwork is going to go to die. It's just to soothe our need. It's like our tribal need. I feel like it's our tribal need to keep paperwork that we don't need. It's like our grandparents speaking to us like, you may need this piece of paper one day, but you really don't, right? Because we live in an age of so much technology that you basically don't need any of that. So how does that feel to you guys? What are your thoughts on this?
At least you can find it.
Yeah.
Mary, you're saying at least you can find it? Yes. Yeah, I think that a couple of times people have said to me, well, I should say more than a couple of times. Like the one complaint I get is like, well, I needed something and then I had to flip through the whole file to find it. And I'm like, yes, but your brain knew where to find it and it was in a safe location. So when you needed that piece of paper, it was there, right? I think, I don't know if you have children, but like if you have children's paperwork from school, like registration to things. I remember one time a client was like, oh, I registered my kid for camp and they didn't get the registration. And so like months later, she goes to camp and then she was like, oh, this is so embarrassing. I didn't get, but guess what? She had the paperwork in her filing system with a confirmation from the fax machine. I was like, who still faxes? But she's like, I had the report. And so she was like, saved herself the embarrassment because she still had the registration, still had the fax confirmation. And she was like, and then they let my kid go to camp. And I was like, yay for filing systems. Right. So that's like one occasion when I was just like, man, that really works. So yes, you can find your paperwork. And I feel like, you know, in the rarity that you're going to need it, it will be there. It will be a little commingled, but it will be easy to find. So Marie-Claude, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so my filing system, so I've worked with a professional organizer before, and that was the best gift that I ever offered myself. And the filing cabinet, the system that I have is, we have it so that it's like financial statements are all together, insurance is all together. So if it's house insurance, car insurance, it all goes there. So when I hear your thought about putting everything together, my ADD just goes, you know.
Yeah.
But if I show you on top of my cabinet here, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
That I think ends up being my temporary file,
Yeah.
right? I just don't put it away anywhere because I'm just not sure. But I've realized I need to purge what's in my filing cabinet so I can put that in and keep that. But I usually do that at income tax season when it's like, okay, I need those papers, so let's just do that now, right?
Yeah.
But putting them all together for me kind of jumbles my brain and says like, I'd like a separation from them, but it doesn't make sense for me to have, you know, for all these little things, like I got my grass cut, woohoo. It's not, you know, I'm not going to need it if I sell my house, or I'm not going to, you know, those kind of things.
And I think that is the number one objection I get from people, right? That is like, it's like in people's brains. And if you're not saying it aloud, I know you're feeling it. It's like, oh no, I have to like put it together. They'll be touching. It's like, yes, because you wanted to avoid that pile on top of your filing cabinet, which is really small, right? Because you are already an organized person. So sometimes I meet people and they have literally paperwork everywhere, and it cascades down, right? Because you can't fit it on top anymore. Then it starts it's like a pile on the bottom. Sorry, the dog sitter just left.
I haven't shown you my desk though, but that was just, I haven't shown you my desk.
No. But it's like, what is the pile that you want to avoid, right? And so the trick here is to like, it takes a little bit of time. Sorry, the dog sitter just left and the dog's having separation anxiety. The brain has good intentions. It wants you to be organized, right? That is the thing you're seeking, that you want to do. And so it really wants you to be organized, but you're making it difficult for it to be organized, because when it's looking at the pile, even if you had like 6 pieces of paper, it's thinking like, 6 pieces of paper, 6 files, it's going to take 3 minutes. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'll do this later. I promise. I'll come back. I'll put it here for now and I'll do this later. And the truth is that later never comes, right? Because like life happens, more paperwork shows up. And then as the pile gets bigger, then your brain is like, oh no, this is too much. This becomes a big project. It's like the big monster looking at you going like, I'm here, look at me. I am just watching you and you failed at putting me away. It just becomes this big thing that is just stares at you. And then it just becomes like a whole thing. There's energy and there's self-doubt and there's judgment. And then you're like, and now you're like, in your case, you're like, you paid good money for somebody to come and help you set up this system, right? So now you're like, I suck. I pay the organizer money to help me do this. And I can't even do that. So I want to eliminate all of that for you, right? I want to be like, you're okay. Paperwork is okay. And just like commingle, give it a try. The people that I convert into this system, truly convert. Like if you embrace it, become one, go over there and hug your file, touch it and be like, I like commingling. I'm so happy to be commingling your paperwork. The people that really embrace that have the least amount of paperwork on your desk. So I know this is going to be tough. So I'm not claiming it's not. This is going to be really hard. So my first task for you would be, and you don't have to get a fancy box, you know, feel like just get started with just a box, any box that fits. I'm going to encourage you to invest the $15 in some hanging files. If you like, make sure you get them with the 1/3 tab. So they're, you know, long tabs like this. They're not the skinny ones. You want to give your eyes your eye and your brain coordination. You want it to just be, to be connected together, right? So hold on, I'm going to call the dog. It's really sad when the dog sort of leaves. And I am here, like, what am I, chopped liver? Dogs are funny. So you want to get the 1/3 tabs. You want to get a good hanging file. They come in all kinds of fanciness, right? They come in printed, they come into like colored, they come into like whatever. I would suggest getting something that makes you happy. The majority of the time, I feel like prettiness is important to most people. I have some ugly hanging green files. However, I have a really nice box, right? So when I go file, my brain is like, look at this box. I feel happy to be putting paperwork in there. And then I want you to create the tabs. And if you're like, oh my God, printing, putting it in the thing, it's too much work, don't bother with that. Sticky notes are your best friend. You know, the sticky part is on the bottom, the flappy things on the top. Just write, you know, January. My handwriting is really bad today. Just write January. Feel it. Stick it like that. Give it a little bend. And here you have a tab. So then you can start working on your paperwork right away. So my first task for you is just to start sorting some of the piles that you have hanging around. Now, people always ask me, like, where do I get started? That's the most difficult thing all the time, right? Marie Claude could start by like in the inside of her cabinet, but that's not necessarily like gonna give her joy because she'll still have piles on top. So I normally tell people, start from the outside, start looking at, maybe you have, like she has that pile sitting on top of her cabinet. I'm sure, I hope it's okay, I'm picking on you. She has that pile sitting on top of her cabinet. She could look through that pile and see, like, are all of those insurance policies still valid? You know, is there something in there that has already aged out? Sometimes the piles we have sitting around do age themselves out, and then we can just don't have to look at them anymore because they sat here for, you know, a long enough, and then we can just start getting rid of them and purging them. So I would say start with maybe some piles that will make you really happy. Sometimes our desks are a good place because we do keep a lot of things sitting there because it's considered a safe place. And then sometimes like it gets so out of control, right, that you can barely have enough space for your fingers and your keyboard because it's consumed with all of the safe things that you were trying to keep in your filing system on top of your desk. So start looking for things around that you feel like, okay, I can purge these pieces of paper. They are no longer within the year time frame, right? They're related to all of the list of things that we talked about. This whole list is essentially included in the dogs are just incredible beings. There's in the record retention guideline, there is a whole list of all of these and the retention guideline that I recommend. So some of the things, even if you include a business, there are some guidelines in there as well. And I will make sure that when I send out the video for this, that I include a link for it so you can easily download it. So that's part one. And that's, you know, like I said, about 90% of what we have laying around our desks and our offices is essentially FYI paperwork that we no longer need or want anymore. If you guys don't have any questions about that, I mean, as you exercise it, you're going to probably have a lot of things that you're like, what do I do with this? And, you know, where does this go? And do I need this? So that would probably be the things to ask questions about that might be more individualized, that I can help you with that in the next class. So you guys are not freaking out, so that's a good sign.
We're not showing we're freaking out.
Are you freaking out on the inside?
We'll get there.
Tell us what you're thinking, because that's important.
Well, for me, in my filing cabinet, so I just lived a nasty divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, do I still need it?
Yeah.
Oh, gotta face that again. Ah.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
Yeah.
So I think in our filing cabinets, there are different things that we find.
Mm-hmm.
We know they live there. And I'm glad you said that about the desk, because the desk is a safe place,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at some point, the desk doesn't become safe anymore, because it's like, okay, I know it's here. I know I'm okay, but now I'm going to be late because I can't find that freaking piece of paper, right, that I need for my client. And it makes me feel like so not beautiful,
Yeah.
right? And I deserve so much better than that.
You do deserve that.
And I'll do it for you, and I'll do it for you, and I'll do it for you, and I'll do it for you. But for me, like, what the fuck, all the time, you know? And it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And that's the emotion that's coming up, because it's like, I know it's in there. I know it's in my storage area. And it's like, we can let it go. We're through it. But there are certain things that still pop up from it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and that's, you know, those are all really valid feelings, right? Because you have some of that very emotionally charged paperwork. My question to people when they have those things in their filing system is like, do you really need access to it on a daily basis, right? Can that stuff be boxed up and go in a closet somewhere that you are not into every day? Like, I'm in my office every single day, and I try to have the things that are nearby that are just really going to bring me joy, right? And to have that level of emotionally charged paperwork may not, I mean, like, and you have a lot of storage space, right? So it just may feel like it's just comfortable for it to have it there. I mean, it may be like moving it to the bottom left corner where you don't really go in there very often, right? Just move all of the things that need to go together into an area that you like, never open this drawer, but it's there. That might be a solution to that. And then make the top drawer that is closest to you with these, like, you know, with these things that are just like a little bit less emotionally charged. And then you can just slowly make your way, you know, into like funneling that stuff in there. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't want the closet. My husband was in the closet. I don't want the closet. I'll keep it in the bottom drawer.
Okay, the bottom drawer feels good. Yeah. And, you know, you can just put love notes in the front of it, maybe like some words of affirmation that remind you that, like, you are strong and you took on this, like, you made a beautiful life decision for yourself to get divorced. And that is like really challenging. And here you are surviving and thriving in like living a much better version of yourself. Right. And like, I don't know, put reminders in the front of it. So then it diminishes the, like, whenever you open the drawer, you can just remind yourself that you're loving yourself. And that's why you made that choice. And
I just always find it interesting how big a piece of paper can make things feel when it's like, you know, it's flat, it's, you know, but.
No, yeah. Whenever I used to get paperwork from the IRS, you know, I own a business. The IRS writes to me. That's just a fact of life. And I would be like, oh my God, the IRS. And I just literally break on a cold sweat. And now I'm like, oh, look, the IRS has something to say. Yay. What did they say? Right. So I brought a different feel to like those letters. Right. And sometimes they send me money. They're like, hey, you overpaid. And I'm like, yay, overpaid. So, you're right. Paperwork is very emotionally charged in one way or another. Sometimes you're just angry at it, right? Because it's saying something you don't want to hear, or it's giving you a task you don't want to do. But we have a choice, right? We have a choice on whether we let it take over our space and whatnot. So thank you for sharing that. Jennifer.
Hi, Chris. I'm wondering what you recommend. I have a shredder, but it's for kind of small amounts of paperwork, and I'm finding that like I have larger amounts that I need to shred. What is the most like kind of reasonably priced, safe place to go and shred?
Are you talking like a couple of boxes worth of volume, or are you talking like 10 boxes? Like, give me a sense of.
Like probably a couple of boxes.
Okay. If you have a couple of boxes, one place that that sometimes I recommend people taking stuff to is Staples. They have a program. It is not outrageously cheap though, but it's like, I think it's like 99 cents a pound.
Oh, okay.
So a box like that could cost you between $20 and $30.
Okay.
So that's one place. It's really conveniently located, so because you can go into any of them. You are local to DC, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a place in Chantilly that does a monthly, and we have to check their website to double check, but they do a monthly electronics collection. So they do e-waste, and in one side they do e-waste, and the next side they used to do a shred truck, and they used to charge like, I want to say it was $15 a box.
Okay.
It's one Saturday a month, and then you basically go there, you give them the box, the big truck is there, they dump it in, they just like zoom it up, grind it up, and then you write them. You have to pay electronically. They don't take cash, so you would have to have a credit card, and then they do that. So that would be another way to do it. And I feel like as it warms up in the next couple of months, there are a lot of these community shredding. So if you waited long enough, you could just take it, and then they essentially do it for free.
Yeah.
So that would be, so the most expensive would be Staples. The second one would be these companies that do, a lot of these companies that do e-waste sometimes partner with companies doing shredding, and then you can do that together, especially if you're like in the Northern Virginia area. I know the Chantilly one does that for sure.
Yeah, I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Okay. I know that like the news channel does like 2 or 3 of them locally as well.
Okay.
I will look around to see if there are any local happening in the next couple of months. You might write myself a task list.
I can look. Yeah, I can search on Google. I just thought you might.
I am not aware of any happening in the next near future, but now that we have brought awareness to the universe, it will come to us.
It'll pop
I mean, it's always nicer when you don't have to spend the money, but at any time I feel that, just getting that stuff out of your space may be worth the $60. I don't, it's just good to let it go of the paperwork. So, any other questions?
And it's also good to protect your identity. So do shred it, and it's worth that investment.
I 100% agree with that. I shred pretty much everything. I'm a little obsessive about it. Just because I feel like I don't want people to see my stuff. A couple of months ago, and it has happened before, but like a couple of months ago, maybe it wasn't a couple of months ago, maybe it was like around Christmas when it got really windy, the recycling bin tipped over and everything went everywhere. And I was like sitting there mortified, but then I was like, it's okay, because everything that matters to me was not in the recycling bin, right? I don't throw any paperwork that's relevant to anyone in the family in the recycling bin. So I feel like if you don't want people to see it when it's scattered all over the yard, I wouldn't put it in there. And it's not even an identity thing. It's just a privacy thing for me. So I spend the money. I do have a shredding service that we offer for our clients. So when we work with people, we bring that stuff. And then I once a month have a truck that comes. I'm in Poolesville, Jen. So I don't know if like I'm close enough and I could just pick up your boxes. We can talk offline and see if that works.
Thank you. You're in Colesville. You're not far at all.
No, I'm in Poolesville. Yeah.
Oh, Poolesville.
Poolesville. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is not very far. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so shredding is it's it is like one of the bog downs, but make a box in somewhere in your office, throw the paperwork in there, see how much you have, and then I'll help you deal with whatever the pile is at the end.
I'm sorry. Could I
Sure,
ask
go ahead.
Chris? Yeah, thanks. You may be getting to this, but I guess we were talking about divorce papers, and I've got some of those and birth certificates and all that, and then instructions for things that I would need to file outside of the monthly or the yearly box. Is that something you would recommend just keeping separate files of?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're right. I'm going into there next. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So the second part of the filing system is basically all of your permanent paperwork, right? And that is essentially like your family, the persons in your family, and I include the animals in there too. It's like the people in your family, the things you own, and the things that could get you in trouble, right? And if you have a business, it is your business. So there's it's like the tangible things that we have, like we have homes, we have, have children, we have cars. Some people have like extra stuff, like extra homes. Like I currently live with someone, but I still have my house and it's currently rented. So that became its own project in itself. I have a personal car and a business car. So there's like two vehicles there to be dealt with. So I have different filing systems for both of those things. And I do create that part is a little bit more individualized, right? So this is where the sticky notes kind of come in handy. So what I would do is I would start making piles, and I don't know if it's on the floor or in a table. So as you're sorting through, you have your monthly files that you can start putting in your box, right? And then you're going to start creating these piles that are a little bit more categorical. Now, a couple of important things here is one, sometimes people say to me, like, I'm just going to start making labels and creating my folders. And I was just like, well, maybe hold on for 1 second. Use your sticky notes because I worked with a client not that long ago, and she had like 5 or 6 different filing systems just for her car, right? One of them is like Volkswagen, one was like Jetta, one was like DMV, one of them was like vehicle. And I was like, help me understand why there are so many car files. And she was like, because I forget what I called it and then I can't find it. And then I just make another file. And I was like, well, how would you label it? And she was like, well, actually, I call my car Trixie. I was like, why isn't Trixie the name on the filing system? She was like, I know, because I thought it was dumb to name my filing system Trixie. And I was like, no, it's not dumb. Like, you have to honor your brain. So if you do have a car and you call it something, right, that is the default terminology that you're using. That terminology needs to go in your filing system. It's the only way you're going to remember where your paperwork goes. And if you call it, if you have a child and his name is Adam and that's Adam's car, write that, Adam's car. So then you know where the paperwork goes into. So as you start creating these files, start writing those things that come to mind, right? Adam's car. Literally, I just worked with the client. That's what she kept saying. That's Adam's car, Adam's car. And I was like, what kind is Adam's car? She was like, I don't even know what he drives. I was like, okay, well, then that's like, if I put 2020 Ford in there, which is what Adam drove, she will never find the paperwork. So I created Adam's car filing system. And she did text me later. She was like, oh my God, I love that I have a file called Adam's car because I know where all the paperwork goes. So indulge your brain. It's your own filing system. There's zero shame on what you're going to put in it. And even if you want to use swear words, it's okay too. No one's going to looking at it but you. If you want to write like, stay out of this file, just do that too. Right. So then write those sticky notes and then start creating these piles with these things that are going to be more permanent. And it feels to me like a lot of my clients have basic things, right? We all have a place that we live. We all likely have a car that we drive. We may or may not have a pet. We may or may not have a child. We all have medical files. We have professional files. We have hobbies, and we have health-related things like yoga and exercise and things related like that. So this is another section where I tell people commingle as much as possible, right? So Marie Claude was saying that when she hired the other organizer, she suggested creating a filing system just for her insurance. And I would say, if you want to keep those insurance separate for your house, then maybe create an insurance section in your house file. So the filing systems that I normally create, somebody just asked me the other day, they were like, well, can I get an A through Z filing system? And I was like, no. Like, if you want to create an A to Z filing system, you're going to have to hire somebody else, because I know that it's never going to work for you. And I don't want to just take your money. So no, I'm not going to do that for you. So I want you to start thinking about your filing system as sections, right? So your house is going to be a section. You're going to be a section. If you have any other person in your house, they're going to be a section. So all of the paperwork that's going to be related to you or your house or your car or your partner is going to be together. One thing that sometimes I recommend for people to do is to color code those files. This is one time when I suggest coloring. You can, once again, you're making the filing system, you can have the happiest color for yourself, and then you can go down. There are so many different color folders that you can purchase, probably at least 12. Are you going to show us your files? Oh, look at that. What? Auto and banking and credit cards. Yeah, I would eliminate the banking. I would eliminate the credit cards, but I would keep the auto. Right, but so you can create then a file system just for the auto, and then you can put things in there like your maintenance. I like to keep my cart maintenance. I don't know why, they're completely useless pieces of paper, because you got the oil change, who cares? Right, but I like to keep that, so I put that in my file. In the state of Virginia and Maryland, you have to get your car's emissions done, so you have to go and certify that our cars is viable to be on the road. So they give you a piece of paper. I stick that in my car. I have all of the original paperwork when I purchased, the window sticker, the brochure, all of that fun stuff. When you pay off the car, the title could go in there as well. So then one day, if you decide to get rid of the car, everything that's related to that vehicle is in one place. And then you can just pull out Adam's car with all of the junk that goes with it and give it to Adam, right? Because Adam is actually about ready to move on and be an adult and have his own place. Then she can just give him the file with all of the things that pertain to his car, and he's good to go. Or if you get rid of the car and sell it for some reason, then you can just purge all the paperwork all at once. So this part develops as you start sorting through your paperwork and figuring out what you have. So Suzanne, you were talking about like some of these things that you already have. I just want you to, as you're sorting through the paperwork and figuring out what goes in your temporary and what goes in your permanent filing system, is to ask yourself a question of like, am I going to need this like past beyond a year? Like, is this a piece of paper that's really relevant beyond a year? And sometimes the answer is iffy on some pieces of paper. So just go with what makes you happy. There are no real strict rules when it comes to, paperwork. If you were keeping every single piece of paper and you're saying like, no, I need this forever, then I'd be like, okay, I'm not helping you here and you're doing yourself a disservice. But if you're keeping some paperwork, which some people are strict, like I've worked with people that wanted to keep all of their maintenance paperwork for their homes, like their plumbers and their landscapers and the HVAC service and whatnot. And I was like, there is no long-term value in it. But they were like, well, but I'm keeping it for my car. Why can't I keep it for my house? And I was like, you're absolutely right. It is a little bit of a discrepancy on the value of the paperwork itself. So I'll let you make a decision. Just know that file is going to get a little bit thicker for the house. I do recommend people keeping things separate, like for remodeling, like if you're doing major renovation to your home, that paperwork probably needs to be a little bit more together. The accounting for it when you sell the house in the US can be messy. So I would keep that paperwork until you sell the house. So how are we doing on our permanent filing system? Did that answer your question, Suzanne?
Couldn't get the unmute. It did. Thank you.
Okay. And then the third part of the filing system is your taxes. I feel like it doesn't matter which country you live in, we all have to pay taxes. And I think some people have more paperwork. Like in the US, we have to keep a lot of paperwork. Some other parts of the country, the world, not so much. But you still should have a section where you're keeping that information so it's relevant. So I normally tell people anything that substantiates money in or money out on your taxes, you should keep it together. And in the US, I think the tax code is like all over the place, like if this, then that, and if like not, then not. But I normally recommend people keeping their taxes for 7 years. So that covers the entire tax code variance. And that's 7 years from the date you file. So if you're a person that is filing in delay, then you want to add on the years to it appropriately to keep that. But that filing system does not need to live anywhere in like your, in your vicinity. It can be stored in your basement or in the 3rd bedroom closet or like somewhere far away where you just go in there once a year. And then essentially you're doing the same thing, right? You're putting one file in for the year and then you're pulling from the back out and then you're shredding. So once a year, you're at least having something to shred. So you're rotating that. I think one question I ask a lot is like, where do I put my filing system? And there is no good answer for that. The temporary filing system, I normally tell people, you have to keep it in a real strategic location that is near where you get and receive your mail. So if you come home and you put it somewhere on the counter, then I would recommend stealing place from your kitchen cabinet in order to put the filing system in there. And I know people always get appalled by that too. They're like, what? I have to take away space from my kitchen cabinets? It's like, yes, because you have to put it in a place where if you read your mail at the kitchen counter, when you're done with it, right, you are not going to walk all the way across the house somewhere to go file it and put it on the top of the filing cabinet. You're going to need it's like a 2-second rule. You want to open the cabinet, slide the bin out, stick the paperwork in, and be done with it. That's the only way to file. And I just said this in a previous call that I was on, like, humans are lazy. We're all lazy. The truth is, like, we have good intentions and we want to do something. And if you really think about it, there's a lot of shit that we do. Like when it comes to filing, like not so much, right? We are super lazy when it comes to managing our paperwork. So help your brain out and help your piles out by like making it super easy. So, so your second task is to find a place that is very conveniently located to put your filing system. And where is that going to look? Where is that going to be? Do you want to share it now? Mine essentially lives in my office, which is downstairs in the basement. And I know people are like, you're just really confusing in your advice. However, I walk downstairs at least once a day because it's the way to the laundry room. It's the way to the storage room. It's where I have my business office. It's where I put my business paperwork. So I have to walk downstairs at least once a day. So when I go down there, then I stick it in my filing system. My file box is essentially lid up all the time. So I literally just go over there, file the month, stick it in. Like it's like I file the month and stick it in with the same hand. I don't even use 2 hands. I remember I'm super lazy when it comes to paperwork. So if it's not this simple, if I have to lift the lid, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't feel like lifting the lids. I'll just put it on the top. Like I have to make it easy for myself. So, Mary Alice, you look very puzzled and you haven't said much. How are you feeling about all of this?
I would say, I don't think I've noticed any category for estate stuff so that you can let your kids know where the insurance policies are or the trust or that kind of stuff. So what the company that set up my trust gave me nice notebooks. They're labeled by the name of the trust, and I've got a notebook that's labeled I have, for some reason, several insurance policies that I started accumulating. So the kids need to know where to find that when the time comes.
Yeah.
I
So-
showed him that notebook in the cabinet in my office that says insurance. This is where you find it.
Mhm. So is it in a notebook or is it in a binder, in a 3-ring binder?
It's a large 3-ring binder.
So
that
the
has
large,
insurance on it.
the large 3-ring binder would probably be better suited on a shelf somewhere. What you can do is you can create like, so you're going to have your own section of the filing system. And in that filing system section, you can create a file that says states or important paperwork or, whatever, however it is that you want to label it, wills, like however it is that it's going to make it easy for them to remember it. And then inside of that, you can just write a note that says, binder with all important documents on the shelf above, like give them specific directions where it is, just in case they're frazzled and they can't see it right away, right? You're giving them exact directions of where it is.
I've got 2 kids. Occasionally I show them, remember, this is where the insurance notebook is.
Yeah. Does it say insurance on the
It
outside?
does.
and the
It's a
spine?
nice large
Okay.
binder and it says that, yeah.
I think
what a lovely gift that is for your
it
children.
is a
Mary Alice.
lovely, it is a
Well,
lovely.
how
gift.
else are they going to find it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Sometimes
just
they.
glad you have it for yourself. Many people don't. So what a
You'd be
lovely
surprised.
gift for you and your children.
Yeah, it is a very lovely gift.
Yeah.
This morning, I was working with a client yesterday and she was like, we were talking about password manager and I use LastPass and so happens that they got hacked and I tend to change my password. And so I was like, oh, if I died today, it would be a hot mess because nobody know what my password is. And she was like, you give that to people? And I was like, yes, I actually have a piece of paper inside of my state folder. I do have a very simple will and a very simple medical directive. Willow, stop that. Medical directive. So then I stick that in the same folder. And then in there, I have just a plain piece of paper that says like what the password to my password manager is, what is the password to my computer, and then the 6-digit code to my iPhone. Because if I died and people couldn't get into these 2 or 3 things, right, they couldn't do anything with my digital life. So, so this morning I was working on a handout for that because I was like, I don't know how many times I work with people and they forget to put those things inside or give it to somebody so they know. So, Mary Alice, in addition to that piece of paper that says like, here's where the really important binder is. I miss you. I miss you from heaven. You can just also leave them a piece of paper that has some of this other stuff that they might really need, right? Like password to your computer, the password to your phone. And if you have a password manager, the password to that. If you have safety boxes, that seems to be like a big thing for people, like not knowing where the keys are, like how do you get in? Like the truth is that like if you are no longer with us, people can't just go into your safety box without you. So there's a whole process to get into those things. But if they have keys and the bank doesn't know that you're no longer with us, they can actually have access to it, right? So giving all of the information that you need so people don't have to struggle to reconstruct your life when you're no longer here is probably all of the things that I would put in there. But I for sure would create a folder and have it in your filing system in addition to the binder.
That's a good idea. So I'm doing my kids a favor by trying to follow your system.
Oh, thank you. They will definitely thank you one day because, we meet with so many families that just, that are just so lost to try to find basic things about their families, even like bank account information and things like that just become so critical and it's so hard to find.
It's hard to encourage. I've got one sister with no kids, so she feels like when she's gone, that's it. She doesn't have to worry about it. But, she's got, somebody's going to have to worry about it. So I keep trying to encourage her to do something to,
that is
it's going to end up being my kids basically dealing with her stuff.
Yeah. I have an interview with the Washington Post after I leave you guys at 12:30. And that's what she wants to talk about, like conversations to have with parents before they downsize or move on. And I feel like, I just speak for my own parents. I love them very much, but I feel like as they're getting older, they're getting more and more selfish, right? And we have to remind people that it's like, you don't necessarily want to leave us with all your junk, and you don't necessarily want to leave us with like no way of reconstructing your life in a way that is like productive. I help people all the time out of these really, really difficult situations where they're like grieving the loss of their parent and having to figure out like, what do I do with all of this stuff? And very basic things like, how in the world do I get into their computer? And that's just like, so you get the award for being here and fixing that up. So I don't know, tell your sisters.
For my sister, how am I going to convince her to leave her stuff in order? She doesn't have trust set up, and that's a good answer, a trust, because you set your successor trustee and that person takes over and you don't have to do probate.
No, there's a lot of money and taxes to be paid when you don't have a trust. I'm going to think about, do you have, Marie-Claude, do you have a suggestion?
One word that I work with. So I work with seniors and I help them find the proper retirement residence. So I help them move and downsize, similar to what Chris does. For me, I work with honor. I would ask your sister, how do you want us to honor you? Tell me, tell us, share that plan with us so that we know how to honor you. It's your life and we want to honor it. But if you don't tell us, we'll never know. So I like working with the word honor. It's about everything, right?
Yeah.
Your life, your bank account, your car, your house, your belongings. How are we going to honor that for you? Share that plan with us.
Or, if you left everything really messy, how are we supposed to honor you?
She even went so far as to order Susie Orman's gold box and never did anything with it. She has the box, but that's the end of that.
So have you asked her, does she live nearby? Have you asked her like, how can I support you? Or maybe can you ask her like, hey, I'm taking this really cool class. You want to take it with me?
Well, and sometimes you get documents AARP sends out, here's a list of things that you need to leave in for your heirs so they'll know where stuff is. And I give them that, but I'm sure she never does anything with it.
Some people, I think, and I think like just a different point of view is that it's really hard to think about a time when we're no longer going to be here. And that is really hard for some people to face.
Well, we've had enough family members. We were brought up with, my dad was youngest of 12 and his dad was one of 10. We have so many cousins. We went to loads of funerals. We played music at all the funerals because we're the musicians.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
well, keep trying because you never know, like something may happen and she may break. And like I would on a monthly basis just be like, how can I assist you so we can honor you? I like what Marie-Claude said, like using the words, making her connect to it so it's for her best interest. They have to play reverse psychology.
Once she's gone, she doesn't have to worry about it anymore.
And keep being her inspiration, Mary Alice. Just keep being her inspiration. You might not know how you're inspiring her just by doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, tell her about the class and how much fun we had.
Okay.
Maybe video call her when you're like sorting your paperwork and be like, hey, look, I'm making the state file. Look at it. Look how pretty it looks.
This is where I'm putting it.
Sometimes you have to break down your sisters.
They're the tough ones.
Yeah. So I think as I wrap up, sorting paperwork is not fun. So I would recommend like maybe setting a timer, giving yourself like 10 to 15 minutes a day. Start small, right? Starts with a little pile. Don't go Marie Kondoing all your paperwork everywhere. And delivery man. Don't go Marie Kondo your whole house and picking up all your paperwork. Just like stay focused, one small area at a time, one small pile at a time, make some progress. And then just keep you making your way around.
I have my file crate.
You have a file crate, so you're good to go?
With the alphabetical file or what did I do? The monthly files. That's
monthly. Okay.
So I did get that set up after I read your first second. I watched your first
look, you're a good student. All right, ladies. So get
Chris,
started and
have
I
an
will.
awesome interview. Very
Aw,
proud
thank
of you.
you.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Hopefully, I mean, like I get interviewed all the time, so hopefully I'll just get actually quoted this time. All right, you guys, I can't wait
Yeah.
to see you next week and hear about your progress.
Take care.
Yeah. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.